What's up, guys? Tenders here again, playing some more Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. We're on part 1, chapter 6, part 1 of chapter 6. So here we get some easy money. This early Dawn Brigade just throws you money like crazy. It got 10,000 gold like last chapter, 1,000 gold this chapter. And here we get the renewal skill, which is sort of useful. We're going to equip it right now. I spent some time thinking about it, and I could have edited this out, but I didn't. Oh well. I was also considering some other things, so I'll talk about that real quick, actually. We ended up putting Renewal on Volug, which just gives you 10% of your HP at the beginning of a return. I thought about giving it to Soth, but I was like, nope, that's dumb. But the thing I was considering is Tauroneo, the white general dude that we just got, has Resolve, which when a unit is under a certain HP threshold, they get their strength, skill, and speed all raised by 50%. So it turns one unit into like a boss. So I'm thinking about taking it off of him, putting it on Zihark, and just to really hammer him home, being like awesome in the early chapters. And here is what we've been waiting for with all these stat boosters, and saved them all for Jill because she flies, and flying is dominance in Fire Emblem. So we give her the Seraph Robe, the Draco Shield, and the energy drop to make her buff. So we're going to be counting on her a lot in this chapter and chapters to come. Okay, so chapter 1-6-1. So part 1, chapter 6. Part 1. So this is a two-part chapter, meaning after we clear this map, which is a route map, which means we just have to kill every single enemy on the map, we'll move on to part 2, which will be the next video. So this one is fairly straightforward. There are quite a bit of reinforcements that you'll see appear on the ledges up high that are Pegasus Knights, but they are all fairly weak and generally are weighed down by the weapons they're carrying. I think always, actually, because they're coming with like steel lances and javelins, which these can't handle. So they're not too scary, and their strength isn't high enough to one-shot anyone on your team, I don't think, including Micaiah and Lara. So, and even base Leonardo's fine. If you didn't level him up at all, which I really did. But, I don't know. I don't even know why I brought him. I brought him just in case needed some chip damage somewhere. And here, I'm just like, I really just want to put Jill into action because I'm excited, because she's new and exciting. So, I'm trying to work out a kill for her. And here, I'm just like, Zihark could do it. Alright, but so these 3 new units we got. So Jill, first off, I mentioned it, that flying is dominance. So, especially in the Tellius games, where you're able to not only fly over any terrain, you're also able to move after you make an action. So Jill, since she has 8 move, can move, say, 5 spaces, attack, and then move the remaining 3 spaces after the attack. So if you need to do some hit and run tactics, if you need to rescue someone and take them out of a dangerous situation, you can do that. It's just it's extremely useful. Flying is always a good skill to have. And as you can see right there, Draco Knights are not weak to bows, but they are weak to thunder magic, which is a lot less scary than being weak to bows, if I'm being honest. And here we see Zihark proc Adept, which is his skill that he comes with. You can be equipped on anyone. I was going to say personal skill, but anyone can use it. And it just, if it activates, it's different between the Tellius game, between the 2 Tellius games. I can't remember if it is a skill % chance or speed % chance of it happening. Either way, there's a % chance of Zihark attacking twice in one attack, so it gives him an extra attack is what I'm saying. And here I'm counting ranges because hard mode decided to make it a pain in the butt to not show show enemy ranges, which is dumb. I'm gonna keep complaining about that until it's fixed, which it never will be. And it's at this point I realize my Edward is not very good. So, Edward in general is not a very good unit, and I recognize that. I understand. He is a growth unit in a game where you're giving insanely good base units. So units that don't grow, like that both have awesome bases and grow really well is what I'm saying. So we got like Zihark this chapter, where it makes Edward just like look awful. So Edward can still do some chip damage and stuff in places, but Zihark can one round a lot of enemies just with a steel sword, or we gave him a forged iron sword to take on enemies and just murder them if he needs to. He doubles just about everything, or I think he does double everything at this point. And he has 17 strength, which is nothing to scoff at. So he is a solid unit. So Zihark is actually generally considered a much better choice over Edward, simply because a lot less investment, and he comes like ready to battle. He comes battle ready, and he is a very good unit. And then the third unit that we've gotten this chapter, brand new, is Tauroneo. That guy. He is a good unit if he had better availability. So Radiant Dawn has this nasty habit of making units that could be good awful because they're only available for a few chapters here and there throughout the game. And Tauroneo is no exception. So we'll have him this chapter, the next chapter, and I'm pretty sure we don't get him the next chapter. There's like quite a few chapters where he's like busy doing other things for the Dane army for some reason. And that just makes it so you can't have the instant kill delete button that he is. He's just a really powerful unit for this point in the game. And he'll make light work of just about anything. Except for there's an armor knight up there that just spawned. And he has a hammer, which is effective against armor units. So we need to be a little careful. But honestly, I think he can still take a hit from it. It does a lot of damage. Effective damage. So the way effective damage works is that the weapon's might is tripled. That's going to come in particular handy later. So there's a chapter later where Nolan is going to be able to use a crossbow, which has some special mechanics to it that is not, it's not like a normal bow where it uses the unit's strength stat, but it uses a fixed might that comes with the weapon. But if you use a crossbow and have it be effective against something, the result is massive amounts of extra damage. Because you basically are just tripling the might of a weapon that has more might than any other weapon in the game. Like, at base. But that's because it ignores strength, so it all makes sense, but yeah. Here we get Micaiah into a bit of a pickle. She dies in one hit to either of these guys, I believe. She has a decent chance of dodging, but we're not going to rely on that, because that is not safe. And I want to do some, like, oh, I'll fly over there and pick her up with Jill, but Jill needs one more movement for it to be safe. Because I think if she, when you rescue a unit, your speed and skill are halved. So Jill would probably get doubled by that archer. Might not die. Her defense is really good because of that Draco shield and the Seraph robe, giving her the plus defense and the plus to HP. But it's still a risky gambit there. Soth, on the other hand, is fast enough to have his speed be halved and not get doubled, which is pretty awesome. So you run up there and rescue Soth. And here, I can't help but give this kill to Edward, just because he's Edward, and I like Edward, even though he's not good. And it's by the end of this chapter that I'm like, oh yeah, I don't need him. Because Zihark, Volug, and Jill are just going on a tear through this level. Nolan, on the other hand, is actually still growing relatively nicely and is going to be very useful for the chapters to come. I'm considering using my Master Seal that we got a couple chapters ago on him, just to give him an instant buff, because I don't think I'm going to take him to endgame, so I don't really feel the need to give him, make sure his stats get that good. I just need him to be usable throughout like part 4 until we get to endgame. And I'm making a big deal out of endgame, and it's not as hard as you might think. there's 5 parts to Endgame, and like Endgame 3, or was it Endgame 2? It's yeah, Endgame 2 is a complete joke. You can beat it in 1 chapter. I mean 1 turn, easy. Like it's not even hard. Endgame 1 is really daunting at first, but it's like all armor knights and mages and a couple archers, so you can just like double everything and destroy them. Like, not that hard, as long as you have decent units. I would say the only one that's like relatively difficult if you didn't plan well is Endgame 4. And maybe Endgame 3. Endgame 3 is pretty interesting. A lot of really high defense units that deal heavy damage to you. They're not very fast, but pretty much every single unit on your team should be able to double all those enemies. But man, they jack you up. But I don't know. That's way far in the future. That is like 35 chapters or something stupid from now, like that. So this game is huge. It's very, very long. So as you can see, we got Pegasus Knights appearing all over the place. But again, it's a lot less scary than it looks. We got a coin. That's one thing that I wish. That's something I wish that Radiant Dawn did not do. Was just have random crap laying on the ground everywhere. I mean, a coin makes sense. I understand finding a coin on the ground. But why did some guy lose a Master Seal or crest or whatever they call it in this game? That's a pretty important item to just leave laying around. Or just find random stat boosters and crap like that. And even the game's best knife, the SS ranked knife, is just laying, I mean, it's a dagger. It's just laying in the sand somewhere on a desert map. You have to like go out of your way if you want to use it. And we're going to do that this run, so help me. Soth is going to be good. I have a few units that I told myself are going to be good. And I've already talked at length about Micaiah. How Micaiah is going to be usable and awesome, and she's going to be destroying stuff with Rex Aurora once we get it, which is endgame. It's the best light tome. But we're also going to try and make Soth usable. You have to bring him to every single Dawn Brigade chapter, and he's force deployed in Part 4 and Part 4 endgame. So he is, like, it's the kind of thing that's like, I might as well make him good. And we're going to. I never have before, actually. I've never put the time into Soth, which is kind of interesting. I was looking through the records. You can see how many times you beat the game. And I counted through, I think it was like 15 times or something like that. And I feel like that's inaccurate, but I'm going to believe it. So like 15 times. And, man, I've never used Soth. Just like how I've never really used Lara. I've never used Lara. And I've never really used Volug past Part 1. Because I don't like Lagu's units aside from the Royals, because the transformation gauge is annoying. And only being able to half shift, which that's all Volug can do, and it takes away a lot of his experience gain, is really difficult to deal with, and I don't like it. So Leonardo, his weapon is effective against these Pegasus Knights. And you would think, oh, well, just have Leonardo shoot one of them down or something, I don't know. But Leonardo sucks. So I think I even have the opportunity to attack one at some point. I'm like, I don't. I'm just like, I don't care. And here they, of course, they go after Tauroneo because he doesn't have... Well, I don't know why that one did. If I were that one, I would have attacked Soth or something, but whatever. I don't want to get Elena this kill so bad, because she didn't see like any action this chapter. But there's like no way to. So I just have her run away, which in hindsight was stupid. I should just have her. Could have at least gotten like 5 to 10 experience right there for some troop damage, but whatever. I did not do that. The bonus experience requirements for this chapter, there's only 2. One is just to beat the chapter and you get some bonus experience. And I actually have that right here. I'm going to pull it up. If you just beating the chapter on hard mode nets you 300 bonus experience, which is a lot. It's more than you've gotten like any other chapter. And if you beat it in 10 turns or less, you get 150 bonus experience on hard mode, which again is a lot. So we want to try and do that. Before now, like getting bonus experience has just been like there's like nothing laying around. There's like no bonus experience. It's not as much, but the next couple of chapters we're going to be able to get a lot more if we fulfill the requirements, which are pretty easy to get in some cases. Trying to line up another kill for Jill here. Here we come. Here it comes. I think the thing that I dislike most about hard mode, as I've been playing, is that biorhythm matters so much. So Jill has like sort of shaky hit rates to begin with. Like she rarely goes above 90, but then if her biorhythm's bad, it just drops like significantly. But then if the enemy's biorhythm is good, then it's just like you're done for. So it's like takes a lot of planning around biorhythm, which is an interesting mechanic. I don't know if I've talked about biorhythm very much. I'm gonna actually tell you what biorhythm does. Look it up real quick. I'm looking it up real quick. I mean, I have it right here, ready to go. So biorhythm. Every unit has a different biorhythm like sine wave. So it's like it's a wave that on every single turn it moves up or down depending on where it is at in the sine wave, and it starts at a random place. But at its best, if you have like your best biorhythm, it's plus 10 hit and plus 10 avoid. But if it's at its worst, it's minus 10 hit and minus 10 avoid. So if you're at your worst and the enemy's at its best, that is a 20 hit and 20 avoid disadvantage that you're at, and that's really difficult to deal with. So like right there, Nolan would have had a shaky hit rate anyways, but he had low biorhythm. And we got those Pegasus Knights up there that aren't scary at all. Jill can handle them all, especially with a Draco Shield. Draco Shield Jill is actually pretty tanky. She has one of the best defensive stats on our team right now, which is awesome, really helpful. Because that's, again, the thing that Dawn Brigade does not have is defense at all, except for a few characters. Those two units both have like everything has ranged weapons over here, which is really frustrating, except for this guy who just gets destroyed. Because I don't know who in their right mind attacks a ginormous wolf. I don't know. Pretty terrifying. First level up for Jill, and it's not terribly exciting. We get defense, which is pretty dope, but I really want to see her get strength. Strength is where she's gonna struggle, if she struggles anywhere. Her speed will be pretty good throughout the game. Her, all of her stats will be good throughout the game. Again, the strength is just what we need to see go up. So here I want to try and line up Jill to be the one that attacks every single one of these to get attacked by every single one of these Pegasus Knights. So I'm just doing some quick counting, and I decide right there. So that's in range of every Pegasus Knight. Now just gotta get everyone else out of the range of every Pegasus Knight, because all of them either do no damage or like at most I think 3 damage from a Steel Lance if she gets hit, but it's not really a problem because that is so little damage. She's just like, please, girl, please. I was just hoping for a crit there and got it. Lucky crits. More range counting. Stop at hard mode. Stop. So this chapter is pretty much wrapped up. There's not much more to do. It's just some cleanup work by my stacked units. And I just wanted to talk about a couple other things. Those other things being that I actually wanted to mention the arena videos that I did one of. So the first one I did was It started back with like the War of Lords, I was calling it. I thought I was all clever and stuff, and then I realized it was actually like really limiting to only do the main characters of Fire Emblem games. But now I've moved on and just be like, the arena, it's everybody. And it's actually really it takes a lot of time to put together. So just doing all the math. It's simple math, but it just takes a long time to get all the numbers right. And I have an Excel sheet like set up to do it easy, but it still takes a lot longer than you want it to. That wuss going to a heal hedge. I hate when enemies heal. I mean, like, good for them for having smart AI that doesn't want to die, but man, that's messed up. Anyways, the arena videos are really fun to watch, and I enjoy seeing the results of them. But putting them together has been really taxing and difficult. So I've only done one, which is the Ike versus Roy video. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's actually really, really interesting the way it turns out. But I've been toying with the idea of doing a Celica versus Micaiah arena video. And I'm not sure how it would work out. I have a guy commented a couple times asking for that. Do that comparison. And I think it's an interesting idea just because character-wise they're somewhat similar. And Micaiah, like they're both holy people, is what I'm getting at. They're both holy priestesses. And it's a interesting concept, but the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, whatever, because Micaiah would get wrecked by Celica, because Celica has really good physical options, whereas Micaiah would only hit magic. Celica's resistance is pretty bad, but Micaiah's defense is really bad. So it would be an interesting back and forth, and that's a bad level up. I'm just kidding. It was a good level up, but we need speed. Anyways, okay, that's it. Enough rambling. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and all that good stuff. Bye.